All right, yes, sir. So you served in the Marine Corps, right? So that's a position that demands physical, mental, like peak performance. How would you say that environment cultivated the nutrition, vision, and everything around that?
Uh, I don't know, not necessarily the nutrition, but it's like how you attack everything in life. Like there's like in the States, a lot of people know like, Fortune 500 companies,
Sure.
a lot of the top CEOs are former Marines, and it's not necessarily that they taught them anything about business, but they teach them about leadership and mission accomplishment. So in terms of, that and nutrition, it's like going out, finding answers, becoming the best at whatever what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I try and do that just for the fighters, trying to make the cuts as easy as possible, make performance the best as possible. But yeah, that's what I got from the core, I'd say.
Yeah, no, I like that. You did one pro fight, I believe, before you went into the Marine Corps, and you went pro afterwards, or was it? Yeah.
So I was pro before I was in the Marine Corps, and then joined the Corps and
Right.
kept fighting while I was in there.
What would you say lessons from the Marine Corps you took and applied that to the fighting? How would you
Yeah,
say it was
yeah,
different afterwards?
yeah. They,
Think,
they work they work very synergistically together. Right? Like being a fighter, being a Marine, it's kind of same. Like violent, aggressive. Go after what you want, get it, and but yeah, they helped each other. They worked synergistically.
yeah, no, I love that. How do you look back on your personal MMA career?
What's that?
How do you look back on your MMA career?
It's funny because like working with so many champions now, it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like you see what you did wrong. I was very hard headed. I feel kind of like a dad. Like a dad is with their kids. It's kind of like kids they know it all, and I felt like I was that kid. Like I'm like I know how to train and so on and so forth. And I look how these guys do it. Like what makes these guys the best. I was one of those guys that always like wanted to spar, didn't drill, didn't work on technique and perfecting the craft. And the guys that are the best, I see that now. I see what makes them the best. So looking back, but I don't have any regrets because I think because I fought before, I'm able to correlate with the people that I work with a lot better. It's one thing to tell somebody to do something and have never done it before, but once you've done it, you understand where what they're feeling, how their emotions are. That helps out a lot, man. It's more than just knowing the nutrition aspect, but it's also kind of reading the room.
Yeah, what was it like at first? Like stepping away from the cage and helping others?
It was tough, like ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to be two things. I wanted to be a Marine, I wanted to be a fighter. And when I left the Marine Corps and got done with fighting, I was kind of like, well, now what? But I found a passion. I never thought in a million years that teaching somebody what I knew would give me more feeling of accomplishment than actually doing it myself.
Mm-hmm.
I love, always wanted to be a world champion, and now I get to do it over and over again through other fighters. It's like a small piece of me is in that ring or in the cage. And just being a small part of everybody's journey and getting to see different aspects and different not only different places but different cultures. It's awesome.
Yeah, did it feel that like that fire you had from the from fighting? It's the same
Yeah.
way in
Oh man.
business.
Yeah, but dude, honestly, like it's every aspect of my life, man. Like I'm on fire for life. Every day I wake up, I don't sleep very much, and then people, it's like you got a lot on your mind. I got little kid syndrome. Like as a kid, you don't want to go to sleep because you might miss something.
Right.
That's just the way I am about life. I don't sleep very often because I miss this or miss that, and but it's good, man. It's a good thing. Nobody will ever outwork me, not because of my work ethic, but because I love what I do, man. It's not put an 18-hour day and isn't tough for me. It's having fun. So
Yeah. No, I love that. So I read about you, right? And I was like, oh, this is a cool dude. And then I started like prepping this interview. What percentage of the UFC do you coach currently?
when I used to I left MMA completely to go into boxing.
Okay.
When I was with doing the MMA, we had more, I'd say close to three-quarters of the roster.
That's
You
crazy.
know, bro, we were crushing it, man. Almost every champion that was in the UFC, worked with us. The cool thing is that the one thing that MMA has, and I didn't work with boxers because the sport's been around for so long. I thought, man, these guys haven't done that. The sport is so far behind the times they haven't evolved. The cool thing about MMA is, the UFC has done is they created a performance institute, so people have kind of a litmus test to find out, okay, what do I need to be doing with nutrition, proper types of training, so on and so forth. They have professionals doing that, whereas boxing, there isn't any. And it's kind of like, well, the strength and conditioning coach just happens to be the biggest guy in the room. Like they're like, well, he looks big. Like he'll be my strength and conditioning coach. This guy will do this. And you don't have anything to base it off of. So, like when I started working with Joe, I found that out, man. I was like, wow, this is like, there's no regiment, there's no schedule, there's no rhyme or reason to train. They just kind of go do random stuff. And, now that he has that, you can see the change in his career, man. The guy's the tip of the spear now.
No, but I mean, 3/4, that's something though. That's
it's nuts,
That's crazy, man. Yeah, no, I love that. How did that grow though? Because I'm like intrigued by that. Like it was one fighter, and then they talked to the next, and then it just compounded that way.
Yeah. So I was in the Marine Corps, and I was with Brian Stan. Brian, became the WC World Champion, and the UFC bought him out. And then in the UFC, he was a 205er. He just he didn't have the reach that he needed at 205. And I told him he needed to cut down to 185, and he'd never done it before. And I was like, help out. So I helped him. And he started training out at Winklejohn. So I helped him with his first fight at 185. He won. And then the second fight, I went out to it to help him do a cut again. He said, do you think you can help my training partner out? I was like, sure. He introduced me to John Jones. That's who he was training. At the time, John he was up in rise, but he wasn't the name that he is today. And that was like the second person. And then the third was Dustin Poirier. He wasn't in the UFC. He was getting ready to fight John Grisby for, I think, WEC. And, man, started working with him, got him in the UFC, got his weight down to 145. But yeah, it started pretty quick and just shot through the roof.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like to be a part of that whole, like the rise of the UFC, that's something, man. I love that.
It was awesome. Definitely was awesome, man.
That's cool. That's dope. Let's talk nutrition, bro. Like from your point of view, like what are staples of like solid nutrition program?
It's going to be different from everybody. I always tell people like nutrition's a lot like religion. Everybody's got their perspective.
Of course.
And to a lot of people, if you don't have the perspective they have, they're like, you're wrong, I'm right. The truth is, like, when it comes to nutrition, if you keep it basics, like simplicity and consistency is everything. You can't find the perfect program. You just need the perfect program for you. If I can write a perfect program for you, your body type. It's like, okay, you're gonna eat this amount of times per day. You just have to cook this. And if your lifestyle doesn't allow that on a consistent basis, that diet isn't gonna work for you. You got to keep it down. Like for example, like Joe, he can't cook all his meals. He's training and stuff like that. That's why he hires me, so that he doesn't have to worry about that. Not everybody has that ability. So you just give them basic stuff that they can do on a continual basis. So the building blocks, basically, we use the principle, give your body what it needs when it needs it. If you ask most people what energy source your body uses, in a majority, a lot of people will say like carbohydrates. But when the fact is when you're aerobic, meaning that your body has oxygen, it's fat. Your body burns primarily fat. So you sit there and you're like, why is everybody eating all these potatoes and rice and all these carbohydrates when their body doesn't need it? You give these basic concepts to people, changes the thought process, and that's what really develops an individual and makes a life change. Instead of losing weight for 6-7 weeks and then gaining it all back.
Right. For example, like with Joe, like you get onboarded on the team, and then what? Like, how do you determine what's right for him?
Oh man, so. With Joe, like that's a whole other animal, because I oversee, his sleep, his strength and conditioning, his entire schedule. So, I know exactly what he's doing tomorrow. What I feed him today is what his body's actually going to use tomorrow. Common misconception, like a lot of people are like, well, I'm going to go lift weights at 10 o'clock in the morning, right? So like, I'm going to have a big breakfast. So they eat like a big pancake meal at 8. Well, that's not in your system. Your body's not going to be using that for the fuel. So if I know what he's doing, then I have to fuel his body, and then I have to refuel his body when he's done. and it's very easy to understand, like, over time, how his body responds. Everybody's a little different, and that's what fight camp for a majority of the time. Joe's a special case because I'm with him year round. But like a fight camp, you'll sit there and you're like, okay, sparring day, I treat it like a fight day. So we'll have a meal, let's say 3 hours before he goes and spars. And he might feel like, man, I kind of felt weak, kind of like lightheaded. Or he might feel like I felt stuffed, like I didn't feel like my food was fully digested. So we started getting the timing of the food down, and then we started understanding what types of foods that his body responds to the best. Like with Joe, before he spars, we give him like a bunch of Greek yogurt, fruit, and like granola. His body responds. He digests it very well. He feels strong. He feels good, but it's light enough where he's not breaking anything down before the fight or anything. But like I said, we find all this stuff up during fight camp, and I think a big problem that I see with a lot of people, for some reason, it's like fight day comes and people they want to try new stuff. Like, well, dude, I'm gonna try this pre-workout. That's gonna give me the extra edge in the fight. It's like, man, if you haven't taken pre-workout in training, sure as hell don't do it right before a fight. You know what I mean? But people do that, man. It's kind of my job to kind of prevent people from doing stupid stuff.
Right, now they get jittery, right? And they want to take control of it.
I can't breathe. I'm like, no shit, Sherlock. People take caffeine you're not used to.
I love that. How is that you say for a fighter, it's like what they do the next day, you give nutrition for them the day before that. How is that different for what you did with the Marine Corps? Because you did nutrition for them too, right?
Yeah, so the Marine Corps, you don't have the ability to be like, if you're going out in the field, you're living off of MREs. There's no cooking and like, oh man, what are we prepping today? It's like whatever they feed you, they feed you. The biggest thing, like I said, with that would be like portion sizing. Like when you get an MRE, understanding what to take and when to take it. But the MREs, you'll get, their meals ready to eat. So you'll get like a main meal. You get like pound cake, bread, Skittles, and stuff like that. There's certain times that are more beneficial to take these things. Like after you're done with the workout, your body's more insulin sensitive. So taking in like a sugary substance like Skittles is going to be a lot more beneficial after the workout versus taking in like peanut butter. Peanut butter it's a high fat source. That's the slowest source of fuel to digest. You don't want to be taking that post workout. You know what I mean? But now, if you're going on a hump, like let's say you have like a 20-mile hump ahead of you, you want fats, something that's going to give you longevity. You're not going to have any bonk or you're going to have any breakdown. But it's just like I said, it's all about giving people basic concepts and principles, not telling somebody like you need to eat exactly this and eat exactly that, because life happens. If you don't understand concepts and principles and you're at a gas station, you can't make those on the spot changes that you need to do.
Yeah. How do you see it? Because this is like common knowledge. This is what I've been taught, and I'm sure it's like based on absolutely nothing. But like heart rate zones, when it's like below 160, you burn carbs, and above it's like you burn muscle. Like that's the common.
Yeah, no, that's 100% BS.
Right.
So if it's aerobic means with oxygen, anaerobic means no oxygen, right? So the harder it is for you to talk while you're doing something, the more anaerobic that you're going to be. Heart rate isn't necessarily going to determine exactly where you're at in that field. At 160, I guarantee you are not aerobic. Your body is anaerobic. You're not going to be able to stay up there at a very aerobic means you can do it indefinitely. You can like walking, you can do indefinitely. Obviously, your feet will break down, so on and so forth. But it's not because you're running out of oxygen. You know what I mean? Everybody is different. Everybody's heart rate's different. Some people will max out at 160. Some people just get warmed up at 160. With boxing, that's one thing I realized. Like, they have no idea how to use a heart rate monitor. A lot of guys are like, I don't really like heart rate monitors. That's because they don't know how to. It's a tool, and they don't know how to use that. They don't know how to use that tool. The goal isn't to get your heart rate as high as possible. It's sometimes we're working on different energy systems, and it's like for cardio. Cardio means heart. If you're working your heart for less than an hour, you're not getting anything done. But try and sprint for an hour, it ain't going to happen. You know what I mean? So it's like, what level do we they'll be like, well, what do I keep my heart rate at? Well, that's the wrong question, because I need to know what is your VO2 max? Like, what is the highest you can get your heart rate at? So, for example, Joe, he can work in like 190. So when he'll do like 2-hour runs now. When we first started working, he would run 30 minutes, man. And like that was his cardio. And
Right.
that's very common with boxing, you know. Now people are like, what, dude, you run 2 hours? And he's like, yeah, man, like 30 minutes is like it's like I'm not even doing anything. But we keep it in a specific zone. So if he feels like man, I want to go faster, dude, you can't go faster. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Hmm.
because you're gonna push it, like you're pushing your heart. And the example I use with a lot of people is kind of like a scale. You know, like you can wake up and you're like, bro, I feel light. And then you step on the scale and it says that you're heavy. You can't be like, no, that thing's wrong. You know what I mean? No, dude, you're heavy if the scale says you're heavy. If the heart rate monitor is telling you that you need to slow down, you need to slow down. You can't base anything off of feelings. It's based on science. And you know, like I said, working the right systems.
So what's best heart rate zone for boxing specifically? Because that's like more sprint like, right? It's not a
See, that's the problem with a lot of people. So you have what's called the VO2 max, and then underneath that would be your anaerobic threshold. Underneath that would be your aerobic capacity. So when guys train, all they do is they work on the anaerobic threshold, and you can only increase that by just fractions, right? You can't increase that very much at all. But your aerobic capacity is indefinite. You can grow that continually throughout your entire lifetime. Um, and the best way I can explain this is like, let's say you guys get in a flurry, you guys start punching, boom, 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 boom. Your heart rate goes up, the guy's heart rate goes up. Now, what's the important thing is when you guys separate from that engagement, how fast your heart rate goes back down.
right.
And what gets that heart rate to drop quickly is your aerobic capacity. So if now you say what's the best system? If I work nothing but aerobic capacity, I'm gonna suck as a boxer. If I just do anaerobic threshold, I'm going to suck as a boxer. But unfortunately, like, fortunately for me and Joe, they don't know this stuff and they haven't followed this stuff. But unfortunately for a lot of boxers, man, like when me and Joe have talked about this, when he gets done with boxing, we're literally going to try and change the game, and actually educate the boxing community. Because I'll sit down, I'll talk to a lot of coaches, and they're like, "Bro, I've never heard any of this stuff, man."
Hmm.
It's it's it it's nuts because it is basic, but it's not. Like I'll give you an example. With boxing, like you see guys hit pads, the coach would be like 1, 2, 3, 2, like 1, 2, 4, 2, boom, 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 and they just keep doing it over and over again, right? And the coach would be like faster, hit it harder, da 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 da, and they don't really work on the biomechanics of the punch. For example, like sprinters, you watch sprinting, like Olympic sprinters and things like that. They'll sprint 100 meters, but the coaches, when they go train, they're not like, coach ain't gonna be like, all right, sprint 100 meters, boom. All right, do it again, do it again. That's not what they do. But the coach is gonna take a look at the stride. Be like, okay, your foot's coming out in front of your knee, this right here, this right, and you break those inches down. And when I started working with Joe, nobody had done that with him before. And any boxer that I've actually worked with, nobody's ever done that. Like your head's supposed to go here, the biomechanics of your body. This is where this lines up. This is what's going to give you the most force, the most power, and breaking everything down like that. Working with Joe, there's so many aspects of fitness that people don't even understand, like aerobic capacity, mobility, strength, power, endurance. People in the boxing, I hear them say like, "Oh, you're either born with power or you're not." That's 100% BS, man. That's like, I'm like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Now, speed is, like you're born with a specific level of speed, just like you're born with a specific level of VO2 max. If some people like in Tour de France, they have a very high level of VO2 max. I'm never like, I can work my ass off the rest of my life, and I'm never going to get close to that VO2 max because it's genetic potential. Um, Joe, luckily, he was born with extreme speed. So from that speed, we can generate power. That power comes from strength. Like strength would be lifting weight. Like let's say you bench, but I'll just give you like kind of like an estimate of how to kind of think about it. when you do a bench press, it's kind of like you're recruiting muscle fibers like 10, 20, 30, 40 as you bench, right? But if I tell you, like, jump on a box, you can't recruit them slowly. You have to recruit them quickly.
Right.
So there's speed in recruitment. There's amount of recruitment. Power comes with recruiting a lot of muscle fibers very quickly. And that's what we've done with Joe. You know, when I started working with him, he wasn't exactly, and I'm just being conservative, but he was not very strong at all. Now we literally have to go to specific gyms because the weights aren't big enough. Like, we have to go to gyms like that have extremely heavy weights. He lifted, the guy he's a beast. You know, like, since April, you know, he went from 244 pounds. Now he's 275 pounds now, man. Running 2 hours. His cardio rest, his aerobic capacity, strength, his power, everything. And, you know, we went with Andy. We did a mock fight camp. Andy's like, dude, he's moving better at 275 than he is, you know, it's at 244. So I'm excited for this fight coming up, man. It's gonna put everything together and show what we've been doing.
Yeah, no, that is exciting. How is it though? Like, judging by that, like, again, another thing I've been taught, like, if your cardio is right, or you do cardio a lot, you're gonna lose muscle. It's just this, I don't know where it comes from, but that's bullshit.
How do I put this? So your body's an amazing piece of gear, right? Now, if you think of this basic concept, like I've been trying to tell you, like what I want to teach people, your body doesn't have a brain. If your body had a brain, it would know, like, hey, you can go to the store anytime you want to get food, right? And if it knew that, there'd be no reason to hold on to body fat. Your body doesn't know that. All it has is negative feedback signals, right? So when you don't eat for long periods of time, your body's going to hold on to body fat, so on and so forth. So what we want to do is make sure that we just override specific signals and give it correct stimulus for whatever it is that we're trying to achieve, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So you don't lose muscle, or you do lose muscle when you do cardio a lot?
So with that being said, right now, let's say I get a guy that he's at a deficit, right? He's not a deficit means he's not eating the amount of calories that his body needs, right?
Right.
The body's like, dude, we got to get rid of something, right? So whatever you're not using, it's going to get rid of. So you see those guys at the gym that, like, all they do is upper body, and then you see their legs, they're like, just like they're toothpicks, right? They look like golf tees. So the thing is the body's like, well, you're not using these, so if we're going to get rid of something, this is what we're going to get rid of. So if all you're doing is running, your body's like, okay, there's no reason to have this excess muscle. And like, you're talking about muscle fibers, types of muscle fibers. If you're running long distance for long periods of time, you're using one type of muscle fiber. Well, type 2 would be like a more fast twitch muscle fiber. Whatever you use, your body's going to maintain. Now, if you run a lot, because Joe runs a lot, but he also lifts. And to maintain, you don't have to lift heavy every day. That wouldn't be conducive to boxing at all. But you do have to do at least, twice a week. Hitting all the major parts and all the muscles that you actually need. And, like, the detail that goes into this, like, people think, like, muscle's good. Muscle consumes oxygen more than anything else in your body, right? So if I have muscle that isn't helping me punch more efficiently, isn't giving me more power in my punch, it's just extra muscle that looks good, it's more a detriment than if it was fat that was attached to my body. Mm-hmm. So we want to make sure that everything we do is very sport specific. I see all these coaches doing just random crap. Like, I'm like, they'll have them on a Bosu ball upside down on their head, pulling on a cable. Like, I'm like, what the hell? When are we going to do that in the boxing ring? It does, and I think they just want things to look sexy. Sexy isn't effective. Fundamentals, basics work. Like I said, simplicity and consistency is everything.
Mm-hmm. No, I see that. The trend right now is like hybrid training, right? Like guys, fighting, cardio, strength training, all that. How's eating for that? Like, nutrition wise, different for that than traditional strength training?
So, like, I mean, if you're doing a hybrid, like, again, whatever you feed, like, you give the body what it needs when it needs it. So if you're going to be anaerobic, I mean, everything I do is mathematical. It's like, it's not a guess. Like, for example, if you jog an hour versus, let's say you spar an hour, you know, it's like you're using way more calories and not only more calories, but you're using different types of calories. If I jog and I burn 1,000 calories, or if I spar and burn 1,000 calories, I'm gonna need to refuel differently. Because when you jog, remember you're aerobic, so your body's burning fat. I don't need to replenish fat. My body's got enough of it. But when you're sparring, you need to replenish glycogen, which is what your muscles use for energy. So I need to know exactly how much. And like the formula, basically, we do it? It's intensity times 3.5 times kilograms, basically lean body mass divided by 200, multiplied by the duration of the workout. That'll give you the amount of calories that you actually burn during that workout.
Mm-hmm.
Once we get that, then I got to find out through another formula, out of those calories, how many of them are carbohydrates, proteins, and fats that I need to replenish. So to answer your question on the hypertraining, like if you do it correctly, like it is basically, it's very simple. If I do a 40-minute workout, I'm going to fuel my body up this way. If I do an hour workout and it's this intensity, I'm going to fuel it up that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the one thing I see with people, like you'll do a light workout, you take 2 scoops of protein, eat a banana. You do a hard workout, take 2 scoops of protein, eat a banana. Like you're fueling yourself the exact same way, but it's like fueling a car to say if you drive at 10 miles versus 500 miles, that wouldn't make any sense. So why does it make sense to your body?
Mm-hmm. I see that. Okay. Yeah, makes sense. What happened? This is intriguing to me. What happens on those fight cards where guys don't make weight because they know they have a date coming up? What happens in those situations?
Like in terms of, what do you mean by like what happens in the situation? Like,
Well, it's not like an accident, right? They meticulously plan
bro,
for it. How does that happen?
like a lot of people have no freaking clue on how to cut weight. You know, like when I started in the business, I was just, bro, I have stories. Like I could I mean, if I wrote a book, I'd probably be in jail. But I mean, at the end of the day, like the stuff that I seen people do, I was like, dude, you're out of your freaking mind. They have no clue on how to actually do it. Remember, like I said, your body doesn't have a brain, right? You know that your body is about 65% water. Now it can go up the more muscle mass that you have, because majority of muscle is actually water. So the more muscle that you have, the more water that you hold. So if you think about it, let's say you're 65% water, and let's say you have to lose or cut 20 pounds. Do you have the water to do that? Absolutely. But knowing how to do it, because I have to override those systems in the body. When you go out to the desert, the stimulus would be heat, right? So all your body knows is that negative feedback signal. So it's like, it's hot. The threat of overheating is the primary concern. So what do? You start sweating, right? Then what happens is basically it's a triage effect where the body's like, okay, I'm hot as hell, I'm sweating, but then it starts realizing, wait a minute, there's no water coming back in. So it's like, okay, what's more detriment? Me overheating or me dehydrating? And what'll happen is it'll cascade like vasopressin. There's something called the RAS system, the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. Basically, your body starts releasing hormones and these systems start being activated to start returning water, stop sweating, and returning water back into the body to make sure that you're hydrated. My job is to override those systems just long enough for you to get on the scale, make weight, and then rehydrate properly.
So it's just a lack of knowledge in that case.
Bro, straight up, man. Like that's a 100% lack of knowledge, lack of preparation. You know, these guys need to invest in themselves. And
Sure.
you know what I mean? Like you wouldn't try and train yourself to fight. You get a coach. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why in the hell are you trying to train yourself to cut weight without getting a coach? But
No, I see
I
that.
might be fine.
Share a story of some of like the craziest shit you've seen guys do, like initially.
Oh man,
Give me one. Give me one.
oh, okay. Yeah, trying to narrow it down. So there's one guy. We're dropping. It was over 30 pounds, and it was in 2 days, right?
Right.
And well, anytime he stood up, so basically there's something called osmolality. It's about solids that are in a solution, right? Once this happens, like your blood pressure drops. once your blood pressure drops, obviously, like, you have something called the baroreceptor reflex. And basically this, like, if you ever stood up real quick and you got dizzy,
Sure.
that reflex is what gets you like back so you don't pass out. Once your blood pressure gets so low that reflex does not take place and you hit the deck, right? Well, this guy had dropped so much weight so quickly, no sodium in his body, that he couldn't stand up. So I'm sitting here like, okay, we got to get down to the scale, right? We got to make it down to the scale and, make weight, so on and so forth. So that was kind of like an endeavor in itself. And we got to try and play it off like, like it's not phasing them. Right? So he's in the elevator, like just everybody's holding him up. And as soon as the elevator hits the ground, stands up and he like puts his poker face on, walks out like nothing's hurting, steps on the scale and he's like 0.1 pound over, right? We're like, oh crap. Well, he was a wrestler and wrestlers have this stupid myth that if you stand on your head for a minute and then turn around and stand on your feet, you'll be a pound lighter, right? So, and here's the thought process. What happens, they think, so the blood rushes to your head, right? So when you stand back up, the blood is falling, and since it's falling, you're good. It's not gonna weigh the same as if it's already set, right? First off, I think somebody needs to give them a class in physics. Like, that is not how weight works, bro. Like, if I get a ketchup bottle and I put it upside down, up here, like, it's going to be the same freaking weight no matter what. So anyway, they weren't listening to anything I was saying. I'm like, bro, that is not going to work, right? And shit, you not. We're in the bathroom. The dude's butt naked, right? And he's looking at his coach. And I'm like, what is he doing? So he's about 10 feet away from his coach and he does like a running start, hits the handstand and he throws his legs over his coach's shoulders, right? Now I want to give you some perspective. The guy doesn't have anything on, right? So the guy's legs are over the coach's shoulder. His shit is just like flailing like in the wind. And if he stands up, he passes out. So what do you think is going to happen when he stands upside down and then stands up?
Probably not good.
He's going to fucking pass out. So I remember looking at my business partner. We both nodded at each other, and as soon as he flipped over, he like stood up and was like, eh, and then we obviously caught him like on the way down. I'm like, dude, the shit, like the stuff that, like, I don't know, it's the stuff that you see. It's like, how does this make sense to you? Like, honestly, like, you're a smart individual. Like, how in the hell does this, like, but that is, I mean, that's one basic example of stuff. I've seen guys burning.
Did he make weight though?
What's that?
Did he make weight though?
Hell yeah, he made weight.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, he made weight, bro.
There we go.
Crazy, yeah. But I don't know. Some people, yeah, it's always an uphill battle, but makes the job interesting.
It's just crazy because like everyone has something to do with nutrition and working out, right? So everyone has an opinion on it. It's just I can imagine that's gotta be difficult. Like I could go crazy if everyone had an opinion on like podcasting, for example.
Bro, here's the thing. You can't mess with truth, right? So I'll tell people this, right? You can't, like, there's laws in nature like gravity. We all know that it exists. We understand, like, there's no denying fucking gravity what it is, right? Laws of thermodynamics, energy in, energy out, right? If my car doesn't have gas, the car's not going to run. There's no hope, like, that is going to get your car running again if it doesn't have gas. So think of this concept, and this is what 99% of nutritionists and dietitians do. When I say 99%, it's because I'm the 1% that doesn't think like this. They're like, okay, you need to lose weight. What we're going to do is we're going to cut your calories, right? So this is a fact. Calorie is a measurement of energy, okay? So if I'm taking calories away, and I tell this to fighters, if I take calories away, what am I taking away? Energy. And I'm like, first off, think about that. You're getting ready for a fight, and I'm going to take your energy rate. So if you look at your body like a car, you're getting ready for a race. So you're going to drive the car more, you're going to fuel it up less, and expect performance to increase.
Mm-hmm.
Shit ain't gonna happen. The car's gonna break down. And that's what happens with these fighters. So instead of concentrating on taking calories away, right? Remember, it's energy in, energy out. Instead of concentrating on the energy in, I concentrate on the output. If I concentrate on performance going up, that means the output goes up, which means weight will go down. So using the analogy of a car, instead of fueling it up less, I just put a bigger engine in the car. If I put a bigger engine in the car goes faster, uses fuel more proficiently, weight goes down, and we get what we're looking for. We get a better fighter.
Mm-hmm. Right, that way. Okay. Let's say you want to get this right. Like these people don't know shit. I don't know shit. Like I just gave you two like examples of things I thought were true, which aren't true. What's your like source? What's your source like go to get like quality information on this?
Right. Like so it's so funny, man. Like people have this thing where it's like regurgitation of knowledge. Like they kind of just go with the flow and they don't actually find out the source of which information comes from. Right. Mm-hmm. And you look at there's 75,000 diets out in the world today. And it's like they take one aspect of nutrition and kind of run with it and make it easy for people. Like Atkins diet. They're like, oh shit, just stay away from fucking carbohydrates. You got the carnivore diet, the paleo diet, the zone diet, which takes one aspect. And it's like people are like, well, I could do that. And then you got like intermittent fasting. They're like, well, just eat during this freaking block during the day, you know? And people are like, well, that sounds great. Where's the science? So your question is, where is that? There is a bunch of geeks out there. Literally, their job in life is to study shit in a lab, right? So you got MD, and you have the NSCA, the National Strength and Conditioning Association. You go on their website, bro, literally anything you can possibly think of. You type in, how many times can the average man jump on their right leg in a minute? You type that in, guess what? There's like 50 studies on dudes jumping on their right freaking leg. So you find out what works and what doesn't work. Like, it's like,
right.
It blows my mind that like, I'm like, here's an example for you, right? There's theoretical knowledge and there's empirical knowledge. And it's like, it's basically application of knowledge, you know? So things, they sound if I told you something, it sounds good, but it's been proven incorrect. So let's say, and this is one of the popular ones. A boxing match it's 3-minute rounds, right? So, well, if this guy is training for 3 minutes, let's say I train 5-minute rounds, I'm going to be in better shape than the guy that is training for 3-minute rounds, right? Theoretically, that makes sense, doesn't it?
Sure.
Well, they've done studies on it. And what happens is your body naturally starts learning to pace itself for 5 minutes. So you become a slower paced fighter because your body, no matter what, is going to pace itself for 5 minutes. So when you get in the ring with a guy that's been training for 3-minute rounds, he's going to smoke your ass because he's going at a much faster pace for a majority of the freaking time. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, a lot of these guys, I don't know, they dream this shit up. Then they don't look at anything behind it. And, you know, unfortunately, the fighters take the hit because fighters will do what you tell them to, man. They're grinders. And that's what kind of pissed me off. A lot of strength and conditioning coaches piss me off because they don't realize they've never stepped into a ring. They've never stepped into a cage. You know what I mean? Nor would they ever. But they're going to go and tell somebody what to do without actually finding the correct way to do it.
Yeah, no, science. I hear what you're saying. You work with these A-listers too, right? Guys beyond athletics. Got to be different from like their perspective. What's a thing they struggle with, like the average Joe struggles with? I can imagine it's more mentally. How do you help them past that point? You know,
it's tough, bro. It is tough. Like I'm right now, like I'm with Brantley Gilbert. Like check it out. Like I can't obviously see. Like we're in the doghouse, right? I'm actually on his tour bus right now.
Oh, that's dope.
And it is a lot different because like I always tell people, it comes down to basic thing. It's a why. Right. And like a lot of, like, you'll hear this all the time. A lot of people are like, man, I remember when I was in my 20s and I could eat anything and I could do this and do that, you know, and then I got a certain age. But I'm like, when you're young and you're single you have a why to get in shape, bro. You know, you're trying to go find a girl. You know what I'm saying? You try to find a significant other. And then you see these guys that get hitched up and they pack on 60 pounds because that why is gone. You know what I mean? They're married, they're like, they become content, satisfied, so on and so forth, right? Why do fighters get in stupid shape? Because they have a goal. Like if I win this fight, I get paid, I'm able to provide for my family, so on and so forth. You need a why, and that's the biggest thing. Like if you don't have a why, you're not going to be able to accomplish crap. And that's my job working with these people, is to create the why. As humans, we have one big distinction that we have from animals is that we can override systems in our body. For example, a woman that's getting ready for a wedding, if she wants to fit into her dress, when she's hungry, she's like, oh no, I got to fit in that dress. She'll starve herself even though she has the ability to eat, right? Never in the freaking animal kingdom would you see like a lion being like, you know what, I'm hungry, but I feel fat, so I'm not gonna eat right now. No, that lion's like, dude, if I have food, I'm gonna plow through it.
Right.
So we have the ability to manipulate our body, unlike any other species or anything else. So yeah, just like, so if we have the ability to do that, what gives us the ability to do that? And it all comes down to, like I said, the why, you know. And I'll say, if your why is bigger than the how, you can accomplish anything. When I come out with these A-listers, man, like I have to make them feel uncomfortable. Because nobody in life has ever been like, you know what, my life's great, I'm gonna change it. No, it's like uncomfortability creates desire, desire creates change. That's just a fact of life. So my job a lot of times is to make them feel uncomfortable. I'm like, hey man, if you're cool with being a fat slob, you know, you got money, you know, you got fame, you got fortune and stuff like that. But it'd probably be a lot nicer to like be in shape and actually truly enjoy life to the fullest. You know, a lot of them give them that concept. It definitely helps out. So that's kind of what I do with these guys.
No, I heard that. That's good. From working from your perspective, I love the like performance mindset behind it. Guys like Tyson and McGregor you've worked with, like what is it about them beyond like talent mentally that gets them to that level, in your opinion?
Besides mentally, honestly, I
Now,
can't think.
besides their talent, like mentally, what is it?
Oh yeah, but how to put this? You know, it's audacious faith, man. You know, like God on truth is audacious faith. You know, guys that I've worked with and I see like Connor, you know,
Right.
having a belief where it's like, I'm gonna do this. And like not saying it, but actually believing it. You know, Tyson was the same way. Joe, he's dangerous as hell right now. When I first started working with Joe, like a lot of people were like, oh, you need to retire. And you know, we started working on that faith. You know, it's like you can't have just blind faith. Like you have to have tangibles. And he sees himself running faster. He sees himself getting stronger. The first fight that me and him worked together, he had the fastest knockout of his career. He beat Django like 90 seconds. You know, he's like, okay, so that felt, you know, that faith got built up. There's nothing more dangerous than a progressing fighter that has that ultimate faith. And sometimes it's blind faith. I'll tell you, like there's somebody that's undefeated, they don't believe they can lose. And it's like you'll see a lot of fighters, they'll go undefeated for the longest time. And then once they get defeated once, it's like it comes again and again and again because they lose that faith. And you know, that's why I hope Tyson overcomes it for this upcoming fight with Usyk. You know, I know he's one of the toughest mentally toughest individuals I've ever met in my life. So I believe if anybody can do it, he can do it. But it is an uphill battle. You know what I'm saying? And that's what makes these guys so special. It's a very delicate situation because it can be broken, and once it's broken, man, it's a long road back.
What have you seen from like remaining that faith after a loss, like keeping it going?
What me? My biggest thing, like
you personally and the guys you've been around, like how do you remain that faith after a loss?
Dude, well, how do I put this? Joe, you know, like I use him as an example, and I know he wouldn't mind. Like he's like my brother, but
sure,
he went undefeated for the longest time, became world champion, and he just kept doing what just kept doing what he was doing. You know what I mean? There was no rhyme or reason. Just he's like, train hard, just beat yourself up. And in boxing, pain is progress. And I'm sitting there and I'm telling him like, bro, like the purpose of a workout isn't pain. Like if you go to a workout and you didn't get stronger, faster, increased technique, if something didn't increase during that workout, you just wasted energy, you know? But when you've never lost and you're doing something, then you have faith. And unfortunately, you have faith in something that isn't a real thing. You know, like you have God natural talent that's gotten you to that. And, you know, like a mentality, like Joe has this mentality, like nonstop. He'll keep going, going, going. He's a warrior. So he lost and then he lost again, back to back. And it's like that faith kind of goes down. It's like, well, what do you do? Well, I'll tell you what you don't do. If you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you get. You have to change your thought process. You got to sit back and look like, okay, what is it that I'm doing incorrectly? And when you do that and you realize I didn't know what the hell I was doing in the first place, so I don't even know what the hell to change. I'll tell you this, any boxer that you talk to, I don't care what level, ask him, are you in better shape this fight than last fight? And they'll say, yeah, I'm in the best shape of my life. And you're like, how do you know that? And they'll be like, well, I feel like I'm in better shape. There's no tangibles, right? If you run a 7-minute mile last fight, right? And this fight, you can run a 6-minute mile. You can legitimately say, I'm in better shape. Why? Because you have tangibles. You have shit that literally shows that you've gotten in better shape since the last fight. And most, I'd say 99% of people don't have that. And to increase faith, you increase tangibles, which increases that faith. And then, you know, once you're on the road with that, man, it's a freaking, it's game over.
Yeah, no, I hear that. I had times where I like felt dangerous, and now I outperform that dude in every single metric, but I don't feel as dangerous. But I hear what you're saying. That's funny, like the tangibles. Yeah, no, that's for sure. Another good one for you. I like this one. Difference between the number 2 and the number 1 in the world, because that's like the highest level. Like, what's just the split difference in your opinion?
Dude, I how do I put this? Just because you don't have the belt doesn't mean you're not number 1, right?
Okay.
Like you follow MMA, GSP was world champion before that belt was ever around his waist. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you. Yeah.
And I told Joe, like, it's like I use the analogy of like women, right? Guys will find like the right woman, and then they're like, what kind of guy does this woman like? And then they try and become that guy. But by then it's too freaking late. You know what I'm saying? And like after the Django fight, we were having a hard time finding fights. And I was like, brother, you keep doing the path, you keep doing what you're doing. You be the right guy, and then when that call comes, you're ready to rock. And unfortunately, most of the guys, they don't train unless they have a fight scheduled. You know what I'm saying? So becoming that guy before the call comes, right, is the first thing. Joe right now, I think I know is the best in the world. So the difference between 1 and 2, you ask yourself, like, what's 1 and 2? Is it the guy that holds the belt, or is it the guy that you're holding on to my belt until I get it? You know what I mean? If somebody does look at it like that, if I have the champion and I have the number 1 contender, if that number 1 contender is like, all right, man, I'm going against the champ, like I need to have my A game, that's already a defeated mentality.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You're like a hyena going after a lion. Where it's when you go after like that dude's holding my belt, I appreciate it, but I'm coming to get it. You know what I mean? Like that's but not just saying that, but actually believing it.
Yeah. No, and to believe it, that's something. Yeah. I hear what you're saying. It is everything. Yeah. That's dope. On the business side, real quick, because you guys do got something cooking, that's for sure. How did you decide on the business partner? Daniel Leaf? That's not nothing. That either works or it doesn't. How did you make it work?
Yeah, we did it. We split up a year ago, bro.
Oh, you did it? Oh,
no, yeah. So we
you still have it in your bio, though.
Yeah, it's like 2 years ago. Yeah.
You
So
have it in
one
your
thing you're
bio.
gonna
I was
find,
reading on it. Okay.
bro. So here's a couple things. I'm very good at what I'm good at, and I'm really bad at what I'm bad at. Administrative, like technology, like dude, I'm the word. Like I don't update anything. Like Instagram is like my mortal, and I hate
Okay,
Instagram. Bro.
okay.
But I need to do it because like for business stuff like that. Now we met each other in the Marine Corps,
Right.
and like we're like brothers. Like he'll always be a brother to me, and so on and so forth. But just not seeing eye to eye. When you guys grow, like when everybody's growing, you know what I mean? If you're growing together, that's what makes all the difference in the world. And he had different goals. Like he opened up a BJJ gym. Like that was his passion. This is my passion. Training guys, that is my passion. And I told him that he went and pursued his. I'm still pursuing mine, and that's just the way things are. But no, it wasn't a bad thing.
No, I hear you. Okay, I was like fully convinced you guys were still doing
No,
something.
no,
Yes,
yeah.
that's on me though. That's on me.
No, that's all me because everywhere on the internet still says
Right.
Barkers.
Future for you, man. Like, what keeps you going at this point? Like, you've like worked with the highest level. What motivates you at this point to keep doing this?
Ah, man, dude. Honestly, like you ask people like what your goals are in life.
Right.
99% of people cannot give you a freaking answer.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite coaches, Jim Rohn, always said, you can't hit a target that doesn't exist. You could be the best marksman in the world, but if there ain't no target, you ain't hitting anything. You know what I mean? And my goal in life is to conquer life. And what I mean by that is like my son, like you've ever heard the expression, what would Jesus do?
Sure.
Like a lot of people believe like, what would Jesus do? I ask myself a different question. Well, I'm like, what would I want my son to do? And it's like, when it comes to relationships, like if I'm in a relationship and my son came to me and like, hey, Dad, the girl did this and the girl did this, but I really love her. And if I would tell my son like, bro, you need to drop that woman, you deserve better, then that's what I'm gonna do. I can't tell my son to do something I haven't done. I can't teach my son about finances if I'm broke. I can't teach my son about relationships if I'm not with somebody that I truly love, or if I'm settling with somebody. And it's like with what I do, I can honestly tell you, I've never done a job that I didn't want to do. If I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it anymore. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people, they live like everything in life is fear or faith. A lot of people stay in a job that they hate because they're scared that if they quit that job, they're not going to find something better. They'll stay in a relationship because they're scared that they're going to be alone. You know what I mean? And that thought process helps me in all aspects of my life. Like I said, I want to conquer life, dude. Like I just want relationships, finance, spiritual, mental, physical. If I'm freaking 100 pounds overweight, I can't tell my son like, just stay in shape. You know what I mean? Just ain't going to happen. So
that's how you.
That's it.
No, I hear you. That's how you define success over time. Like evolved. Was it before?
Yeah.
Like in UFC, that's or in your MMA career, that's different, right? It's just you want to win, and now it's different.
Yeah, like, and if it's not, bro, like like one of my favorite quotes is like, if the vision for your life isn't intimidating to you, it's probably insulting to God.
Right.
And I think everybody has these safe goals. Like, well, like I ask a lot of people, like, we'll just say nutrition. They'll be like, I'll have these people come in, and I'm like, well, what do you want? They're like, well, I want to lose 10 pounds. And I'm like, all right, so I'm like, you're telling me if God came down and said, I'll give you any body that you want, you'd be like, dear Lord, I want to lose 10 pounds. I'm like, that's BS, bro. And they'll be like, well, okay, I want to lose 60 pounds. I'm like, okay, so like, why didn't you ask me that? And I think people, they don't have that audacious faith where it's like, okay, man, I want this. And as I see you're in great shape. When you have an initial goal, right? You're like, oh man, like I want to get the bench to say 300 pounds. Well, once you get to 300 pounds, it's not like you're going to be like, all right, man, I made it in life. I'm good to go. Once you hit 300 pounds, you're like, man, let's see if we can get 350, And that's just the way my life is. And I wanted to take over the MMA community. I did that. Been in the boxing community, bro, like work with every freaking boxer that you can think of. Joe is going to be undisputed. Like it's like the Mona Lisa of everything. Taking a guy that, like, he's on the brink, may almost retiring. and being a part of his journey where this guy becomes undisputed, makes history. It's a big one. And it honestly has nothing to do with the accolades, but Joe's like I said, he's my best friend. He's my brother. And, the relationships and the bonds that you have with guys in the trenches, like Leith in the Marine Corps, that's what life's all about. Because having all the money in the world, having all the success in the world, if you have nobody at the top of the peak to share it with,
Yeah.
freaking pointless, man. So, yeah.
No, that's beautiful, man. Closing, like the future of nutrition in like sports. How do you see that? Where do you see it going? Do you like hope guys like catch on what you're doing?
Yeah, bro. Like I'm serious, because you're asking like what I'm doing business wise.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing anything. I have one goal in life right now, and that's I don't like to how I put this, to look at other people's mistakes and circumvent them before we get there. For example, like a lot of top guys, you look at guys like Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, great legend, right? The only person that I truly believe, and I'm not trying, this isn't meant to be an insult, but it's a compliment. The only person that beat Mike Tyson was Mike Tyson. Once he hit the top, there's nothing to chase. You know what I mean? Like, how do you stay on top? You see all the greats, Tiger Woods, Tyson Fury went through it. All these great guys, they hit the top, but it's like, okay, if we truly believe we're going to the top, then you got to start planning for that. So our plan is like not only just getting undisputed, we're sitting there like we're going to stay there until the end of his freaking career. We're going to make history doing that. Once we're done with that, we're creating basically a blueprint of how we did this. And then we're going to teach everybody in boxing how it's done. And that would be our goal. So that will be the business model after he makes that.